Hi guys, this is Zach from Watches on You, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the two Omega Speedmasters. Now these are probably the most popular Omega Speedmasters in their collection, and so on my left I have the Omega Speedmaster First Omega in Space, and on my right I have the classic Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch. So as you can probably tell, these are very similar timepieces, and in really almost every way except for some very important ones, which I'll go through. So right off the bat, I'll just explain the similarities. So these are both obviously Omega Speedmasters. They're both have really similar dials, and they have extremely similar prices too. So the one on my right is $5,350, and the one on my left, the First Omega in Space, is $5,300. So there's only a $50 price gap between these two timepieces. So you might wonder, why would I pick one over the other? So let's go over now the differences of these timepieces. So, but right away I'll go over the case. So the cases are going to be both stainless steel, however their dimensions are going to be different. The First Omega in Space is going to have a 39.7 millimeter diameter, versus the Speedmaster is going to have a 42 millimeter diameter. Now, I will say, however, that these do wear almost exactly the same. And I would have to say that it's most likely due to the crown guards on this Speedmaster Moonwatch, which would need to be counted in the diameter, versus since this one doesn't have crown guards, it just has the pump pusher sticking out. That doesn't need to be, that is not included in the measurement. And if you look at the thickness of those crown guards, that is roughly the extra 2.3 millimeters that you need. And you might wonder though, why does the crown guards count on this watch versus others? You can notice that they actually do flow with the case, however, and go all the way through the side of the case. So that is my guess as to why the Moonwatch is going to be thicker than this, as the dials really look about the same. I'm sure you can see that on camera, and you'll see it when I put these on my wrist later too. Now, so that gets into the case profile. So the case profiles are going to be much different. So if you just look at the lugs is really where this is most apparent. The First Omega in Space has much sharper lugs. You can see that they have a totally different finishing profile where they're going to be polished on top entirely, versus this Omega has the classic flowing bevel polish across, and then it has the brushing on the inside and brushing on the side, versus this one just has that side brushing. And this is consistent with the Speedmaster language at the time. This one coming in later, they switched to this case, versus the first Speedmasters did follow this case profile, which is, if you can tell, is much different than the Moonwatch. So now let's go to the dials. So the dials, if you can't tell already, the dial on the First Omega in Space is going to be much more black than on the Professional Moonwatch. That's just due to the fact that the Moonwatch has a rougher grain in the matte, which makes it reflect light a little bit more and appear a little bit more gray, versus this one, if you can tell, is much smoother. I'll just try and get you in the light there so you can see it. So there you go. You can see the rougher grain on that, making this style appear more gray. Now that's up to you whether you prefer one or the other. I don't really honestly have a preference with regard to the dial color. I think that they both look great. Now the other difference is going to be the hands. So the First Omega in Space, and this is one thing many people like about it, doesn't have the white painted hands. I mean, obviously it has some hands there, which I'll go through why certain ones are white painted and why the other ones aren't. This one has the standard polished hands that you see on most watches. Now, in my opinion, I do think that this looks higher quality. I think this makes this watch look better finished and a little bit nicer than the Speedmaster Moonwatch, just because the polished hands. You also do get a metal applied logo like Omega used to do as well, which I think is a cool touch. Now, the white hands on this, however, are going to be the chronograph hands. That's why you see those two subdials there are white, and then the center seconds is white, and then the other subdial and the main hands are polished. That's to match up with the chronograph, so all chronograph functions are in matte white hands, all non-chrono functions are going to be in polished hands, which I think is a pretty cool way of organizing it. However, in my opinion, I'm not a huge fan of that design. I think it doesn't look symmetric. I think that they either should have made all the subdials white or made none of them white. and then maybe keep the white second-hand. I think that would have looked better in my opinion, but again, that's up to you whether to decide or not you like that. Going back to this one, you can also see, however, so in addition to the hands, as this one has all white painted hands, in addition to the hand color, I'll say, the shapes are different. So this really has really more standard kind of stick hands, versus this one is going to be more kind of arrowhead spear-shaped hands. And one thing also to note is that the subdials on these are different. So this kind of has the Moonwatch has kind of a sharp drop off, versus this one has a smaller sharp drop off and then goes into a more smooth subdial. So if you just want to compare those there. And then finally, the crystals on these watches are different. So the first Omega in Space uses a sapphire crystal. You can see it's more of a boxy crystal. Sorry about the focusing there. You can see it's a little less curved when you compare it to the Moonwatch, which uses a Hesselite crystal. So basically that means that this is going to be, the Moonwatch is going to have an acrylic crystal. It's going to be much, much less scratch resistant. It will actually scratch very easily, but you can also polish that scratch out and it will be more impact resistant. I personally also like the warmth that a sapphire or a Hesselite crystal provides to the dial. I think it reflects less, and I think it just looks better in my opinion. I just really like kind of the vintage look that it gives these watches. And also in my experience, I'm not 100% sure if this is a proven fact for some certain reason, but I have found that Hesselite crystals don't fingerprint as much as sapphire. So the sapphire, though, however, you're not going to be able to scratch it really ever. I mean, it's extremely hard to scratch sapphire crystal, and that's why they use it in modern watches. So that's one thing to take note of this. However, you're also not going to be true to the original like you will if you have Hesselite on the Moonwatch. So now let's do a wrist shot. So I'm just going to take glove off there. So on the wrist, this one is, as I said, it's going to wear about the same as the Moonwatch, in my opinion, just because the dial is going to be the same, really the same diameter, and so is the bezel. They both have the same bezels. I think it looks very nice. However, it keeps the nice, fairly slim profile of the Moonwatch. And that is one other thing to note is you cannot get this on a bracelet. It's not even an option to get it on a bracelet. So if you really like metal bracelet watches, then maybe go for the Moonwatch, as that one is offered on a bracelet. It's also offered on a leather band, however, if you like the Moonwatch, but you don't want the bracelet. And that will cut some of the price off as well. So here we go on the wrist here. Again, very slim profile. I like that about this watch a lot. The 42 millimeter size I think is great. And again, I think it wears about the same as the 39.7 millimeters of the first Omega in Space. I have about a 7.25 inch wrist, so take that for reference with these two watches. And here you go. The bracelet's very comfortable, but I honestly prefer this watch on a leather or a NATO strap. I think they look stunning on those kind of straps, so that's what I would personally do with this. I mean, I would suggest if you're going for the Moonwatch to get the bracelet one, but if you like a leather strap, go with that by all means. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Which one would you pick over the other? These are both regular production models, and they're shown no sign of being limited, either of them. So again, just let me know what design you guys prefer in the comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts as well. I'd like to mention these watches were both lent to us by JB Hudson Jewelers for the purpose of this review, and I'll leave a link in the description to their website where you can inquire about purchasing these watches if you really like them. So thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks.